Welcome to the Best 5 Minute Wine Podcast with Forrest Kelly.
Hey, I'm Aaron Vaccaro. I'm the CEO of Liquor Lab, a cocktail experience business in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay, before we get into Liquor Lab, the thing that caught my eye in reading your bio was Topgolf. Give us a little bit of background where you grew up and your schooling and then professional career.
I grew up in what we call the Texas part of California, down south of Fresno, and then up in the North Valley in Sacramento, where I actually live now. And I went to school at a small place called Whitworth University in Spokane, Washington, where I went to study originally math and physics until I figured out that I had no business doing research. And so I ended up going to grad school to get a master's in finance so I could go into investing. And through a little bit of luck and some hard work, I ended up coming out of school with a job at a venture capital firm called West River Group in Seattle, Washington. West River was interesting because it was a small firm at the time. There was about 3 people, and they had invested in some startups, managing money, for a handful of families and foundations. But they had made a big investment in this company called Topgolf, which at the time had about 10 locations and, maybe 90 million in revenue, but it was still sort of a regional concept. And my partner, Eric Anderson, founder of West River, at the time said, "Hey, I'm about to make a big investment in Topgolf and I'm going to become the CEO. And I need somebody to, be my kind of right-hand man and chief of staff and crunch numbers and things." And so he offered me this job at, 22 years old, I guess I was. And then came out, and for about 6 years, we ran Topgolf, building it from 10 locations to about 70 by the time we sold it. And it was doing about 1.1 billion in revenue. And in 2021, during the pandemic, we sold to a Callaway golf company. And along the way there, I got to do everything from finance and strategy to real estate, marketing, operations, kind of, I call it like the Topgolf MBA. So a lot of experience. And a portion of that was food and beverage. And of course, the whole thing, is part of what we call the experience economy. So I got a lot of experience building one of the best brands in the world in F&B and experiential entertainment. And that's kind of what we're still doing today, just in a bunch of different areas.
So the Topgolf experience, I'm sure it had evolved from the beginning to the end, huge, because once you get people there for, what do they book? It's been a couple of years since I've been, but it's you book an hour?
Our average dwell time is actually like 2 hours and 2 minutes.
Yeah. So within 2 hours and 2 minutes, I bet you the cost of when you first started, how much people spent in the beginning to when at the end during that 2 hours increased, 3, 4, 5-fold?
Yeah, it's interesting. Over time, if you go way back to the beginning, before we got involved, it was like a driving range with a food truck. And, they started with just the technology to track the balls. And then they added in a bar where you could get a beer and hit balls. And eventually it evolved into this amazing experience where 90% of our food was from scratch. And we had an incredible, sports bar and wine and beer menu and cocktails. And it definitely elevated over time as we upped the experience. We grew the menu and we grew all the games you could play and all the things that made people want to stick around.
Did you have wine as a selection as an alcohol choice in the beginning, or did you bring that in later?
Yeah, I mean, wine was on the menu from the time I got involved in 2014. So I think from the beginning, as soon as they started serving beer, started with wine as well.
Did you find if there was a stigma to drink wine while you're playing golf?
That's a good question. I think because of the way that Topgolf is set up, I mean, it's like asking the same question, is there a stigma around eating tater tots while you play golf, which we also did. And so the whole thing, it was like, I describe it as a driving range plus a, bowling alley plus a sports bar, because you're sitting around and in between taking your shots, shooting the golf ball, you're drinking wine and you're eating food and whatever you want to order. And then at the same time, you can go and we've got big TVs with the games on and everything. So I think we kind of broke from the beginning, whatever kind of stigma there was around golf, shattered it from day one and kind of never looked back.
Yeah, and I can attest to that because there was multiple times when it was, hey, it's your turn. It's like, no, go ahead. The nachos just got here. I'll get you on the next turn. So, yeah.
It's so funny. There's a funny stat that illustrates that around, we have all these games and put a lot of effort into designing the games, whether it was, hit the different parts of the target or who could do the longest drive or who could, hit the colored targets in order. It's all these different games you play. But you have to have a certain level of skill to actually play with that kind of precision. And it turns out that something like 90% of the balls hit in all the years I was there were played in basically practice mode or just the basic game mode. Because for most people, it wasn't really about competing and trying to play the game perfectly. It was about just having a great time practicing hitting balls into whatever target you could hit them into, and then eating and drinking.
Yeah. And then also on a subtext, it shows you how much golf is mental, in that when there's nothing on the line, you just grip it and rip it and you write down the thing, 300 yards. Like, hey, why can't I do that when it's pressure's on?
We always used to say, like, I grew up playing band, and we always said our best playthrough of a song or a marching band, it's never going to be on the field. It's going to be in practice at some point. So you just have to accept your perfect song. It's probably going to be in band practice, and hopefully you get close to that when you're actually out there on the stage.
The best 5 Minute One podcast.
Don't forget my favorite part.
Please like and follow. Oh.